All right. Please help me welcome Ahmed.
Hello everyone, thank you all for coming. I have so many slides, so I'll try to be as quick as possible. So you guys see the button here, as was, but I don't recommend using as, but we will talk about it. So you can visit this website if you want to stalk me and know more. I really like to write articles. There are not that many, but I really take care of quality. It was made in Egypt, and yeah, for 11 years now, I've been writing console logs, trying to fix stuff. Recently, of course not alone, with my amazing team of 11 developers, we migrated like a whole React Native app, like a production ready one, about 1,000 files. We are almost 4 months now, and it's almost done, almost. But I learned so much about it. Before that, I'm not like a Typescript expert or something, but we all learning by doing. So let's talk about types. So this is like Java. I have to think of it. Like, if you want to define a variable, you have to say from the beginning it should be this, and if you make the slightest mistake, you're out. Like it won't compile. So it takes all the responsibility and put it on the developer to just fix the stuff. And we have JavaScript where you can do anything. There is like, if you have a broken syntax, you can just save it if you don't have any other stuff, and you can put anything inside any variable and you can do whatever you want. And we have fake stuff. And this is how I like to think about TypeScript. It's fake, basically. Like, I think of it like if you have a building and you are having this wooden structure, but at some point you just remove all of it when you build, and that's it. So, and this comes with a price. So like, it's a very nice move from Microsoft. I have to say it's an amazing language, and it fits the what it was made for. But this means you have a lot of responsibility. Like Uncle Ben said, with great powers comes great responsibility, and your responsibility as a developer, as a team lead, whatever of your position in the team, like it's very easy to use any or unknown or ignore, and then you will hate TypeScript, and then you will write articles why TypeScript is a waste of time, because like you have a responsibility to involve it, and we talk about this. One of the misconceptions about TypeScript is like people say it's amazing, it's great, but we are really busy, we just don't have time for this fancy stuff. Like I said, like it's really incremental. It's mind-blowing how incremental it is. Basically, any JavaScript code is valid TypeScript code. Like you have to keep this in your mind. And this means if you wrote like perfect JavaScript code, you just add a tsconfig and simple npm command, and that's it. Like, it can compile for me first time without touching anything. Of course, it doesn't work like this, but you take it from there. And it's very incremental on how you can do it, and we'll talk about it. The second misconception, and my favorite, is like, nah, I'm too good, man, like I have whatever, like years of experience, and this is like for baby developers, like I'm so good for that. And this is like so wrong, and I like completely disagree with it, that I made a slide. And I would say, like, if you want to take a single takeaway from this talk, it's like this next slide, which has nothing to do with TypeScript specifically. I will just compare robots. I like to give the example of Iceland, for example, with humans. So humans have feelings. I know this is surprising, and also that developers are humans, not like no one, but yeah, some of us are. So we have lots of feelings, and this means we get angry, we get tired. So even if you know the right thing, you want to do it, but you know what, man, like I really want to go to the weekend. We feel pressured. Like you might even like someone that if he says something, you do it. You like, this is not right, but in a perfect world, like it could happen. Like, you know, like no, I'm not doing what he's saying. Like we have all kinds of feelings, and Eastland doesn't. Like Eastland doesn't get bored of telling you for 1,000 times to do something in your face. Like he wouldn't judge you. Like, oh man, it's so stupid. No, like if you broke something, it will tell you. No feelings involved. The second thing, as humans, we are very opinionated, or we can be. And this is fine, like, this is nothing wrong in that, generally, but I guess this is why we use something like prettier, like, it doesn't matter, man, how you format, just take this topic out of my way and let's focus on the important thing. Think of this for anything. And another thing, you could say as a team, this is our opinion, but okay, someone joined your company today, how would you know all the opinions? Oh yeah, we have a README, yeah, good luck with that. Because even if someone read it, no one updates it. I can just go on and on. So like, ESLint, as an example, I can just say from day one, this is the opinion of how we write code, if you really take care of it. We also have different experiences, and I like to think of this in two ways. Like, there is experience just as like how many years of experience you have, but again, this new junior who joined today, he could do literally anything. Like if someone, like if it slipped somehow, he could take production down. And there is also, and this is important, maybe you relate to this more, there is a different kind of experience, which is your experience in this topic. So, like I said, I started 4 months ago in this new company, and I never even made a single, like, small project with React Native. I have nothing, no idea, I still don't. So, this means I could do a very stupid thing, like, without knowing, and people say, yeah, he's team lead, he must know what he's doing, or we could be screwed up. ESLint doesn't care. Who are you? Are you CEO? Or like you will do things as I say, and that's it, regardless of your experience. We also have working hours, luckily, and even if you're a workaholic and say no, I'm always available. Trust me, you need like a second pair of eyes if you're pushing something to production at 4 a.m. It just helps. And then, of course, even if you claim that all this doesn't matter to you and you're like a superhuman, there is no way you can get the speed of something automated. Like my favorite example, we all have like some huge JSON translation file that gets changed every day. Good luck if you can tell me you can compare the structure of multiple languages. Like, there is just no way. So in short, it's consistency. And there is no way that you can match the consistency of a thing. Not to mention it takes most cases like a few seconds to add an ESLint rule or to do something or to change the CI, and then you forget about this whole topic for the rest. Even if you leave the company, like, it still works the same. Why I'm talking about this, not JavaScript, not Typescript, because you will notice most of my stuff is like automation. So, what should you do before migrating? First thing, you need to analyze the code base. So what does it mean? Like, you can look how was the project bootstrapped. For example, if it was like create React app, you can just look how to add TypeScript to this thing and just save time without hassle. You should look also at the npm commands, because you need to keep this working. So even from the moment you add TypeScript, you have to make sure that developers can use the commands and the build command still works on it. So this is a good place to see where things go wrong or where you need to look further. You can look also at the npm packages. That's a good time to even add the types for missing npms before you even touch or start migrating. It will just help you. It's also a good time to upgrade if something is super outdated or something. You can also you should look at the code style. Like in my case, it was a new project actually, so I noticed they use class-based all over the place, very fittingly, but it's, I needed to refresh on my class magic, especially with React and so on. So, and also it helped me to think what to focus on so on. Part of the commands also, like, what are we producing? And this part actually is important because usually you have this minified magical thing you don't see. it's a good idea to see if it changed or not. Like sometimes I commit it partially, like or temporarily, to see after running TypeScript what changes this miss, if any. I should also look at what are the special file extensions like SVGs. How do you want to deal with it? Do you want to take more information into TypeScript or JSON or whatever? Like just take your time to look. Don't rush into migrating. And this is something like I added this yesterday because I learned this the hard way in the current project. We migrated lots of files, and then after migration, we found out that they were not used. And before you laugh, I'm sure all of you have like some folders or files that people even keep maintaining, and somehow they're not used. So I found this amazing tool called the TS clone, and just run it. Don't take the results blindly, but just like get rid of stuff before you invest in migrating. Next thing, you need to onboard your team. Like you shouldn't just jump in and do stuff without people knowing what's happening. So depends on the scale of the team, of course. Like if a small team wouldn't need most of the stuff I'm going to say, but like if you are in a big company, 20 people team, like take your time in the plan period. Try to build interest, see who's like anyone like not feeling on board, or like even if you don't have to, it's nice to hear from them what they're usually afraid of something or not really. Like just try to get people interested. That will just help you. Also, if you're new, like in my case, it helps to know who's senior, who has previous experience. You can be like your second man or something, and who's like junior, so you really need to give him as much time as he needs, and so on. Maybe also suggest, okay, let's take this course and refresh your knowledge on TypeScript. Then write all of this in a plan, or like with the stuff I'm going to say, also like in a document, and then share it before you even touch anything, just to see how it's good. Fun fact, like actually this slide, I started the basic version of it for my company actually to do that in my first days, and then I said actually this would help other people. So you can even use mine or if you don't mind to just onboard people what's going to happen and to get them excited and so on. Let's go to the migration. So it's really important to take it baby steps, and it's really incremental, like we said. So just take this to the max. Like I said, the first purpose actually could be a few files. You just add a tsconfig, make sure the command still works. Maybe migrate 1 or 2 files just to make sure the system works, and that's it. Like don't even you will be tempted. Oh, I need to migrate more and more. Like the time will come, but now just make sure. And even if you can release at this point, I would say you do it just to be sure that okay, I didn't break stuff. I also learned that maybe it's better in the beginning, assuming you're like there's someone responsible for the migration, just to work yourself until you finish the ground, let's say, face all the first obstacle and so on. And maybe like when you finish 5% and reach a level where like okay, we have like a huge components folder, you can start breaking it down. We'll talk about that. Exactly. So one thing I learned that it's not a smart idea to tell people, hey, like we want to migrate, just go run, and like if you have any ticket, just randomly pick stuff and migrate it. Like bad idea. I will talk about how to create actually the tickets, but the main goal is the main rule, don't convert, don't touch TypeScript unless it's like a ticket for a specific folder for TypeScript, and you do it and you really avoid touching stuff outside it. Why? Because imagine like if everyone has their freedom, it will happen a lot that I'm converting this file, someone else do it. The least that could happen, a wasted effort, or worse, you can even both merge them. Like you just don't want that. Something like that was really helpful. No matter how much you can talk about TypeScript, and even watching tutorials. We are humans, like we learn by doing it. So after I created the tickets, I told people kindly, like, if you take the first one, just let's pair on it, let's say. And I say nothing, he shares the screen and I see how his work and I help him. And we needed one of these developers, even the juniors. I was really impressed. Like you just get it because at some point, yeah, you just Stack Overflow the rest and you just go from there and you catch it with good reviews. Okay, now you hit a generic, then it's time for you to look into it. But don't try to learn everything in TypeScript and just, I don't think even I know like 50% of it. In these early times, I focus on quality. Like don't push people. Yeah, be fast. Why are you doing that? Like this is what people are learning. However, be like very strict in quality. Like say, okay, I will give you whatever time you need. You can even switch to other tickets. But like I'm not merging unless you learn whatever is needed for that. Because this is how the whole team becomes more and more comfortable with it, and then the time and being fast and efficient will come. Yeah, we talked about also tracking progress. So halfway, I was like really wanted to know, okay, how much is left? So I made like a small script, and it was like super helpful. Like you just run it and simple percentage of JavaScript files over TypeScript, and now we are like 90 point something. We are planning to have a big party when we finish. So where do you start? So this also was one of the key learnings. Because like you have a ton of files. Do you go from the index or from the smaller ones, or just I have no idea. But then while working, it started to hit me. So let's imagine like we have an app.js top level, and it just imports login form, and this imports a button. So the order you should start with, it should be like actually from the bottom, and the first button means anything in this level. So like, if this is in the components folder, then the whole components folder needs to be migrated. Then when it's merged and it's done, and it's more importantly, the checks are valid, you go to the next level and so on. And hopefully I'm waiting for the day to, like the last pull request, I just enjoy doing it myself, because this should be like the last file where everything else is converted. I could talk a lot about why, but like, just trust me, like otherwise you will hit, if you need to fix something in bottom, you will start branching and doing other things than the ticket you have and the systems. And the whole thing can be in two phases. You convert all JavaScript files, and this is actually the phase we are in now. And then the second phase is this. And the difference, basically, in phase one, you allow JavaScript files. You actually have to, because most of the code base is JavaScript files. You can be a little bit lenient with having any unknowns, because like sometimes you just have to. I don't recommend to refactor anything. Like your job is to describe what you have to TypeScript. This will have two things. The purpose will be less dangerous, especially if you're shipping to production and so on, and also easier to track and everything. And you avoid also the need to touch other files for that. And I don't recommend to enable strict mode. It will just be very hard in the beginning. But after I finish, my plan is to, not allow JavaScript anymore. You cannot really get rid of any unknown, but like you will really come back to whatever we left from the phase one, and then you can really refactor and enjoy the benefits of TypeScript. And you can enable also strict mode. I think it's tricky, but let's see, maybe we'll revise that up later. So let's talk about TypeScript itself. Some tips. This is really how I think, like this is what the compiler does. This is in short TypeScript. It tries to get X and put it into Y. You have a variable, you told TypeScript, or for some reason TypeScript thinks it should hold a number, and at line whatever, some value that TypeScript thinks it's a string, it tries to put a string in a number, it fails, and so think of any error like this, no matter how big, how scary and complex. the last line usually says, I couldn't put this into this. So when you have this mindset, it becomes really, so the second question, okay, is it X the problem or Y? Is this variable too strict or too narrow that it should accept strings or numbers? Then you do this, that's totally fine. Or I need to convert this or handle this case, hopefully in a correct way. And that's it, like this is what I do for the last 4 months. Also, like try to fake it till you make it. One of the amazing things about TypeScript, it doesn't really care about names. Like if you're trying to put a very complex object and pass it to a function, and this function just expects this object to have a single attribute, as long as this complex object fits this criteria, TypeScript will say, I don't care about the rest. And you can use this, like you have the scope of the file, and this is why also one reason to start from the smaller files up. You see the whole scope and you see, okay, I'm accessing this. So even if you don't know the whole story about this object, if you just tell it at this line, I'm expecting this, this is totally fine, this is not hacking, this is actually how you should think. In the future, whether you hit it again or not, or maybe you have an updated type or a smarter one, you can replace it. But even if you don't, if you never don't, you're entirely safe. And this is how it works. This is maybe like also one of the most important things, and this means better. So just take your time to learn. Like it's just take your time to learn. Like you will hit something, probably generics at some point or like something as crazy. You know it, like you know that there is probably some way, some smart way to do it. You either take the half an hour or 1 day or whatever you need to learn this and do it, or you say, you know what, I don't have time as any. And if you don't have someone like me to prevent you from doing that, then the whole system collapses. Like everyone else will do it. It's not why not me? Like everyone else, I'm not fixing the everything, and then it goes to the advantage. So take your time and encourage others to share actual knowledge. Okay, guys, this is how we do this, and so on. Yeah, like there's something called the JS comments. They're really awesome. You just add an extra star if the comment is before the code, and then you can really get so many information even in another file. It's like attaching information to Typescript or JavaScript, and it's just really cool. This is also one of the important things. So I call it the 8 shades of TypeScript. So this is your goal. It's incremental, like we said, and this is the pyramid. So the best thing is to have the perfect type, and this means it's not too wide, it's not also not too narrow that it will cause issues. It's just you expect a number and you define it this way, and that's it. If sometimes you're not sure, so it's okay to make it a bit wider. For example, if you expect certain strings, but you don't have the full list, and if you say only like just a string, it's not perfect, but it's also not too bad. Sometimes even this is not, you have no idea what this is, and you just don't have time or find out. Use unknown. Who here never heard of unknown before in TypeScript? So unknown is like the cooler brother of any. So any means you can do anything. If I say a variable is any, then it means I can do a string, I can access any this, I can call it as a function, I can just any with unknown, then it still say I don't know what this is. So if you say put a string or a number, that's fine. But if you do like try to call it as a function, this is no, you can't do that. I don't know what this is, so I won't let you do this stupid thing. And it's just awesome. But even this sometimes it's not enough. So you use any. After that comes as, and this may be surprising to some of you, like, well, come on, man, like as is not that evil. But the problem with the as keyword is like it feels safe. Like in some situation you use it just because you think it's okay, but usually there is a smarter way to actually check at the runtime or to assist TypeScript. So just try to avoid it, and then you will really learn much more about TypeScript. Let's keep it this way. Then, if all of this is not enough, you really get the bad guys, and then again, you probably know that case ignore one. This is like super bad. What I like about TS-expect error, it works the same, but it doesn't stay there forever. Actually, if there is no error suppressed by TS-expect error, it becomes an error itself. So it kind of forces you to, if you fix something somewhere, then you don't need it in these files, and then you just get rid of it. So but if you have TS ignored, it just stays there. And they both, of course, like they just mute the next line. And yeah, like if someone uses this in workers, he had like lots of explanation from me. But sometimes, like this is part of being implemented. Sometimes you need it, and it's fine. You will get to it later. Something, whatever. The absolute worst thing you can do is to just define a type that's not accurate. And why is this the worst of all? Because it's very hidden. Like if you told TypeScript this should be a string, and in reality it's a number, so you won't get errors, and you will build over this lie, and it's just so. Like, if you are not 100% sure, then use any of these previous stuff. Like to me, this is like more acceptable than just guessing, and I think this feels like a string, so this is like the worst. We talked about automation, so like my favorite is ESLint. I consider it the younger brother of TypeScript. It really helps, especially with the migration. You can copy this from the slides if you want to see how to support it in TypeScript. I like this overrides functionality of ESLint, so you can define stuff or override ESLint only for TypeScript. And this is a nice way to also not start with fixing everything in the code base, but as we are touching or converting TypeScript, let's use ESLint more only for these files. That's super implemented. I like also to explore, so most of the plugins I know about TypeScript is like someone made a mistake. It could be me. I get a comment on a purpose. You did this mistake. The first question, okay, is there an ESLint rule for it? And you would be surprised. Like I found crazy stuff. There was one, like if there is two HTML colors or CSS colors that are too close to each other, there's an ESLint plugin for that. It gets crazy. You have two main things in ESLint. You have errors and warnings, and it's really, you need to be smart. What to make a rule is. So if you make it a warning, the downside, people don't care, and if you have hundreds, then it just disappears. And if you make everything an error, then people will hate you. So you just really, you need to think, okay, this matters. This I need to block merging for this one. So this needs to be an error. This I want to track, but like it's okay to have a warning. And if you don't want some warning, just disable it. Like, try to minimize the miss. You probably guessed it. I really like to minimize the chances of anyone mistakenly or intentionally getting around this stuff. So I really recommend everyone to set up the editor, to have ESLint, and to enable the settings for this code, for example, to fix and save. It just makes life easier. It removes the biggest problem developers have with it. Next level comes Git hooks. I run some stuff on commit or before pushing. And then comes CI. Editor and hooks are like super fast and free. By free, I mean, we tend to forget it, but actually every time we do something on the cloud, usually someone pays for it. So it's just a waste of time if like you clone stuff and do so many commands, and then some formatting issue makes you push again and then run all of this again, wasting time and money. But if you have the stuff in your editor and the hooks just for free, however, it's not really dependable. You cannot force everyone to leave, like no matter how much you say, people just sometimes don't care to enable the plugin or whatever. So for those guys, you have CI stuff to help them. Okay, like I did everything to help you, you need to help me, so if you don't, that's your issue. Even more automation, this is the last slide. One of the most amazing things I learned in this migration is something called abstract syntax freeze. And it's just amazing. You can think of it as regex, but like on steroids. Like if you ever made a fancy find and replace and used regex and felt like a hacker kind of thing, abstract syntax trees like this. It makes any language that you can understand it in a very basic tree structure, and then there are tools to modify this tree, and then you convert it back to code, and then you can make much more than find and replace. Like you can basically modify, and this is actually, if you learn it, you understand how ESLint work, how Babel work, how even Typescript, like it just really opens so many doors for you. So for example, one of its usages is like code generators. You can generate stuff for Open API or Swagger if you want to generate types out of it. Please always try to do that. If you have a backend, try to don't manually do stuff as much as you can. There's a tool called GS CodeShift by Facebook. It's amazing. They use it to make these modifications. If you upgrade React, they tell you to run this command to get rid of a deprecated thing. So it uses GS CodeShift. You can just look at any example of these mods. Just like I used it to actually create a generator to migrate most of the files, like 90%, and then the editor just, the developer just finishes the rest. Like we saved lots of time. You can also use it like if you have a JSON schema or whatever, like anything that usually the backend produces. Just Google it, you'll find something to generate, maybe something else you can just take. The more you do this, like it will really minimize most of the problems of, oh yeah, they changed this and we didn't, and so on, especially if you have TypeScript. This is like a fancy thing I learned, like I made a script from the terminal to select a file to migrate using this generator, but to make it even easier, by adding like this small config to VS Code, you can access it like if you just have the file opened in VS Code, a small shortcut, you pick this task and it uses the active file and just converts the file, renames it and all the stuff. And this really, when you multiply by 1,000, any few seconds you save or effort you save, it's just worth it in my opinion. And yeah, I can, if you know abstract syntax trees, you can make ESLint rules, and I went crazy with this. But of course, when it makes sense. So even if you have something very specific to your code base that there is no way someone made it, you can just do it, and it's not that easy. Maybe that's another talk, but it's possible. Thank you all for waiting the time for me. I'm a bit over time, sorry. So that's it. Any questions?